Right, the meeting is called to order here at 6:01. Jay, I believe you're administrative tonight. May we have a roll call, please?
Yes, sir. Chairperson Philip Goldstein.
Here.
Vice Chairperson Marty Yost.
Here.
Commissioner Tom Wood. Commissioner Wendy Newland. Here. Commissioner Mike Lewis. Alternate Commissioner Michael Lowry. Alternate Commissioner Renzo Bianchi.
Here. Commissioners, any amendments to the agenda? I have none. No. None. Nope. Administrative determination of alternate voting. Renzo, you'll vote this evening as an alternate. Public comment. This is open public comment. This is an opportunity for anybody that wishes to address the commission on anything that is not on the agenda. There will be an opportunity for public comment on each of the items on the agenda. If there's anybody that wishes to speak on anything not on the agenda, did anybody sign up or otherwise? Anybody want to speak on anything not on the agenda? That's all right, Jay, if we'll just take a show of hands. All right, no, I assume nobody wants to speak on anything on open public comment. We'll close open public comment. Commissioners, the consent agenda consists solely of the January 7th, 2025 meeting minutes. Any additions or corrections to the minutes? No. Hearing none, do I have a motion on the consent agenda?
Motion to consent agenda.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Consent agenda carries on a 4-0 vote. Move on to business items, which there are public hearings. First one, item 6A, Timnath Landing sketch plan amendment number 1. Chad, I believe that's you.
Thank you, Chairperson. As you mentioned, item 6A, sketch plan amendment for the Timnath Landing subdivision. The applicant is S Group and the owner is CAC Timnath LLC. Subject area is within tracks A and B of the Timnath Landing subdivision filing. I can provide an outline in a following slide. However, essentially that filing is all above, north of the Great Western Railway up to Bus Grove. And there were 2 tracks within that which are being amended for the sketch plan. Approximately 252 acres of land are part of this amendment. Again, generally located south of Bus Grove Road, east of Timnath Parkway, and north of Harmony Road. This application is in accordance with Table 2.1, the hearing process and notice requirements of the Timnath Land Use Code. So a subdivision application, sketch plan, requires a public hearing with both the Planning Commission and Town Council. And it was properly noticed. Physically to the property, letters were sent to the property owners within 500 feet, and a hearing notice was published in the Coloradan. So a sketch plan is the first step in the major subdivision review process here in the town. This document provides conceptual layouts of a future development submitted prior to the process and identifies land uses, density, major circulation, and helps guide the vision and scope of the project that follows that major subdivision review process. So in addition to other applicable provisions in this code, shall use the following criteria to evaluate a proposed sketch plan application. Those items include that the land use mix within the conforms with the town zoning district map and land use map and furthers the goals of the comprehensive plan. 2, that the sketch plan presents a functional system of land use and is consistent with the rationale and criteria set forth in the code and comprehensive plan. 3, that the utility and transportation design is existing and planned capacities of those systems. And 4, that negative impacts on adjacent land uses have been identified and satisfactorily met. So the subject areas are primarily zoned family residential, which is the yellow R2, spanning with a small segment of mixed, which is the R3 zoning, and then a small CMU district along Harmony Road. These zoning districts do align with the designation of medium-density residential found in the Timnath Comprehensive Plan. So first, I'd like to kind of take a step back and orient everyone on what the existing sketch plan did for this development. The original Timnath Landing sketch plan was approved in 2015 and permitted a total of 1,210 residential lots within the planning areas, which you'll see on this graphic as PA 1 through 17. This plan outlined a variety of housing types and densities. It also identified commercial uses or commercial space, open space areas, and then a pedestrian connectivity to the regional amenities for approximately 490 acres, creating the entirety of the Timnath Landing subdivision. Again, located east of Main Street, north of Harmony Road, and south of Busgrove Road. Within this document, it also established potential road networks to connect development internally and to adjacent developments, including the construction of the Timnath Parkway, which bisects the Timnath Landings development. A series of lakes, as you'll see on this document, were incorporated as both a recreational amenity and means to mitigate groundwater and historic drainage patterns. This plan designated 17 planned areas, as I mentioned earlier, exclusively for residential dwellings with specific densities associated with them, contributing to that total of 1,210. So within each of these planning areas, there was a range of densities that could be permitted within that area at platting. All those at the high range, 1,210. Look at how it started to get phased out. So phase one within the development is essentially south of the railway, began in 2019, platted 55 single-family detached lots within planning area 17. Again, if you go back to the screen, if you see PA 17 aligns was proposed moving forward. An additional 107 single-family lots were platted in accordance with the mixed zone district densities, along with 5 commercially zoned lots there in C2 abutting Harmony Road. These areas were separate from the established areas of that document and were not counted towards the unit total defined in the original sketch plan. Phase 2 of the development, which then began developing north of the railway, began in 2021, platting an additional 309 family lots. This included the construction of the lakes, vegetation pond, and the Timnath Parkway. To date, that gives a total of 623 residential lots that have been platted within this community, with 46 lots corresponding to the densities established in the residential planning area. So 446 of the 1,200 were utilized. So then we overlaid what the proposed sketch plan is. So as I mentioned, this sketch plan, it's seeking to reestablish the density and population in open space areas within phase 3 of so when it came forward to staff in the platting process, we realized that it was not in full alignment with what the road proposals, access drives, and densities, and even open space being proposed. So therefore, it was requested to resubmit as an amendment to ensure compliance moving forward with the development. So this phase, again, I mentioned encompasses approximately 252 acres of land north and east of the existing lakes within the development. This amendment is requesting to reallocate a portion of the lots approved in the original sketch plan, resulting in 746 dwelling units within, which would represent a 72-unit increase from original approval from planning areas 7 through 15. So those are the ones that we looked at specifically for the new development and determined that they were not in alignment, so there has been amendment set forth. Again, previously permitting 600 units in those planning areas, now requesting 746. This proposed increase is conforming to the total unit count permitted in the original plan, and outlines a conceptual layout for the circulation of open space areas, ensuring appropriate connectivity and throughout the development. This proposal does include one neighborhood park, 4 pocket parks, and usable open space within the amended boundary of area of Phase 3. Significant layout proposed by the amended plan is the relocation of a retention area. So as we saw before, there was a retention pond or lake extension to the north of this development. With discussions with the state and staff, that was shifted to Timnath Parkway, and so it was able to meet those needs of dewatering for the area, providing adequate drainage as well. So that was no longer a requirement and was actually would exceed the amount of water that they could retain for the development by maintaining that. So instead, they've replaced it with a linear park concept that will integrate both active and passive open space elements within it, and it is designed to accommodate all groups and abilities. So you'll see that with the orientation of the intent there is to have a linear park that would be accessed through various trail networks to connect those within the development. The plan is also, as I just mentioned, featuring a series of both concrete and soft surface neighborhood trails and a further connection and extension to the town's regional trail network. So as we've had discussions about McMorris property connecting, there's the intent to have a regional trail connection to the east of this property that would also continue westward, creating additional connection, walkability within the development. The density for this area will now increase from 2.6 per acre to 2.96 dwelling units per acre, which would adhere to the 4.6 permitted by the underlying zoning districts. That's the R2, R3, and RMU. The proposed sketch plan will consist of single-family residential lots, but will introduce a variety of lot types governed by a PDO amendment under review currently. Lastly, access to the sketch plan is shown to the existing Timnath Landing development through Pinedale Drive, which would be to the south, the Burntwood to the north. Additional ingress, egress to this phase will be located at Parkway and Busgrove Road, ensuring adequate into the subject properties, and a potential connection to the adjacent property east is maintained through a Grand Tree Boulevard, which is presented on the initial sketch plan. A neighborhood for this development proposal was held on November 18th at the town's community room, and residents of the Timnath Lakes development, along with other stakeholders, attended that meeting, not only to learn about but to share some feedback and concerns regarding the sketch plan. 10 individuals were present, and a summary of the meeting is included. So then again, staff has reviewed this application against the subdivision review criteria and finds that it is in compliance in ways. For one, we feel that the sketch plan is conforming to the zoning map and comprehensive map. This designated density, the land uses proposed all align with that in the underlying densities in each document. Two, that the sketch plan amendment represents a functional land consistent with the code and the comprehensive plan. The use of single-family residential is compatible to the adjacent existing and proposed within the plan. This amendment demonstrates adequate utility and transportation design. Further investigations and studies of these designs will be reviewed at preliminary and final plat. However, this document was shared with the referral agencies, and this was adequate at this time. Four, and finally, the impacts to adjacent land uses. So within the neighborhood meeting, we heard concerns from surrounding residents or those that were in the Timnath Landing development or Timnath Lake development currently of the concern of the reorientation of open space areas, particularly what was perceived to be the removal of the lake within that initial document. Applicant that the pond was relocated again west of Timnath Parkway, and there's a new open space design that will be incorporated within this. It is not removing the open space. It is just a different type of amenity that will be utilized within that area. Some concerns over the density were raised. However, with conversations with the applicant and other proposals, the intent is to shift some of that density to the northwest of the development along the intersection of the Parkway and Grove Road. We felt that that was an appropriate area that would help offset any concerns of some of those immediately adjacent properties. Greater separation in our base standards for lot sizing within those areas to help create a within the development rather than a stark increase in density. So we've had numerous conversations. We feel that this sketch plan and subsequent documents will help mitigate those identified impacts. Again, we'll continue to work with the applicant to ensure are well thought out and mitigated through the platting process. With that, staff is recommending approval with the condition to allow staff time to work with the applicant to address minor non-substantive modifications to prior to final signatures. With that, development team, I don't know if it's Nick or Jeff, but
can you turn your mic on? There's a graphic there of a man. There you go.
There we go. Thank you. Thanks everyone for taking the time this evening to show up and hear this sketch plan amendment proposal. My name is Jeff Norberg. I'm with PCS Group. We are the planners and landscape architects for the Timnath Lakes community.
you can just tell me, I'll shift it for you.
Yeah. Yeah, that's perfect. I'd like to just take a quick moment to thank Chad and members of Timnath staff for getting us to this point tonight. I'd also like to take a moment and acknowledge the development team whose hard work has gotten us. There we go. Thank you. I already did a good job explaining the proposal, so I'll try to keep our presentation pretty brief. This is from the original sketch plan approved in 2015, so about 10 years ago. And I think the biggest point to take away from this is, at least with respect to, is the area depicted MU3 is now currently a pond with a walking trail and park adjacent on the west side of Timnath Parkway. This is essentially replaces, or it's a relocation of the pond is centrally located in that north phase. If you'll move to the next slide, please. And if you last slide with this one, which is our current proposal, area highlighted towards the top is the north phase, which this application is discussing. But I think in some sense, like, it's clear from these two slides that the requirements for a sketch plan have changed in the last decade or so. At this level, is intending to show general circulation patterns and general level of development, which is a bit different from the nice like you saw in the previous sketch plan. But two things to highlight with that comparison are the points remain virtually the same between this application and the approved application from Busgrove Road and from Timnath Parkway. Likewise, the level of development is very similar, if not the same, to what had previously been approved in 2015. Can you go to the next slide, please? And this is the open space and parks diagram included with the amendment. As you can see, we've identified locations of the neighborhood park, general locations, and the pocket parks as well. Of note is that the neighborhood park generally aligns with the location of the previous lake, or the previously approved lake. Overall, Timnath Lakes will contain at least 50 acres of open space, which is 30% of the total property. So 50% more than what's required. In addition, we'll have numerous neighborhood parks, well, 2 neighborhood parks, numerous pocket parks, lakes, non-motorized boats and fishing, and over 6 miles of hard and soft surface trails throughout the community. Just wanted to highlight that. If you'll move to the next slide, please. That generally concludes our presentation. I just want to leave with a couple high-level thoughts. Essentially, this is a very simple boundary change for the north phase of the community. We're not requesting an increase to the number of units for Timnath Lakes. The land uses proposed are consistent with the land use map, town's comprehensive plan, as well as the town's PROST plan. The amendment has been thoroughly reviewed by staff and referral agencies, and staff is recommending approval based on the approval criteria. With that, I'll conclude our presentation, and if you have any questions, please feel free to ask.
Okay, Jeff, I'm going to open it up to public comment first. So if you want to take a seat,
Sure.
we'll have you come back up here and maybe pretty quickly. But Jay, has anybody signed up or otherwise wishes to offer public comment at this time? Okay, please come up to the podium, state your name and address. You have 3 minutes. And is there anybody else that's interested in public comment, just so I know to be planning for it? Okay. Yeah, it is.
Okay, great. So my name's Peggy Nelson. My address is 43 Mountain Shadow Way. And what I'm here to request is that the city take a look at the density of this project. Again, in the 10 years, the decades since this thing has started, yes, there has been, in fact, significant changes in the water picture of Timnath. We saw it this summer when we were forced to go into water rationing, and we're going to see it again. And part of that was because the developer of this project did not complete some of the infrastructure that was committed. Other complications in the water delivery to the town of Timnath than just this community going in, but this community only aggravated it without getting the water work pathway in that needed to be there, the infrastructure, as well as the coming online of all the grasses in a big block at one time, forcing us to go into a situation. In 10 years since this project has been in work, the water district that supplies Timnath has not been able to prosecute or execute the water infrastructure plans that were needed for a number of reasons. In addition, plans for water within the Timnath and in other places within the water district absolutely grown through the roof with the density requirements towns like Timnath are planning. And today, that is needed for just Timnath, looking at Timnath, but also the water district, doesn't meet the plan. Structure is not there, nor will it be in the next 3 to 5 years. Water rights have not been procured to actually, if the infrastructure is there, to get the water out to Timnath, speaking for Timnath's sake. We're in a situation where we're going to be looking at, again next summer and for the foreseeable summers going forward. Unfortunately, the situation has been aggravated by the fact that this has been a dry year for us. We had a very dry fall, dry summer, and so that has aggravated the situation of water in the plan. Now, as I understand it, the City Council has not taken a detailed briefing on the water situation that exists and will exist over the next 3 years. And I think it's absolutely irresponsible, Commission and the city, to go forward with densing a project when we are looking at citizens who already live here are looking at rates going through the roof, just read your mail, and continued rationing. And it's just, it's not something the community can turn homes very quickly. The district can build infrastructure and get water permits very quickly. That is a long-term situation. And I really request that you consider de-densifying this plan and not increasing the density of this plan, given the water situation. And I don't think it's being addressed here.
Thank you. Jeff, anybody else? Okay, we'll close the public comment on business item 6. Jeff, why don't you come back up? I'm going to give, or anybody from your team, I want to give you an opportunity, if you want to address this. Staff, I'll turn to Public Works, I'll turn to planners as well. If there's anything to address Ms. Nelson's comments, why don't you start, please?
Sure, yeah. John Prestwich with PCS Group jumped in because I was actually the guy who did the original sketch plan, so I'll help Jeff out in this respect. I wanted to point out that there has been a mechanism in the original sketch plan to transfer up to 15% of the units to any area. So if you did that math, 674 units times the 15% was already built into the original sketch plan. What we're proposing actually less than what we would have been permitted. We would have been permitted up to 775 units. We're proposing 746. And importantly to note, still not going over the 1,210 that were permitted for the overall community. So I want that on the record that we're not actually proposing to number of units or even what we would have been permitted to transfer under the already approved sketch plan. And I wanted to get that message out because I wrote the original one. So Nick wanted to talk about the infrastructure stuff.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Council. Nick Montalbano with Gonzales Development. I thought I'd come up and address some of the concerns Ms. Nelson had brought up, particularly in terms of water conservation. I want to kind of set the record straight a little bit on the infrastructure that Mrs. Nelson was referring to, I believe, was the 24-inch water line in Busgrove. That is a water line to the tank north of our site and was actually not required for us to be built until our phase development. There was nothing in our entitlements that said that that had to be built within a certain time frame. It was generally that once our development got closer to Busgrove, those improvements would be. We worked with staff and with Fort Collins Loveland Water District and agreed, considering what are true. These are the true concerns, and we all saw the restrictions and issues that Fort Collins Loveland experienced this summer. We worked with them to actually accelerate that obligation. You know, we would have to build that water line at some point, considering the issues that Fort Collins Loveland was facing. We agreed to advance the construction and build that earlier than we otherwise would have been required to build it. In addition, the water district had asked that new developments stop new installations of sod and seed irrigated area. This was not strictly enforced, but we voluntarily agreed not to continue installation of sod and seed throughout the summer and resumed installation in the. So we've actually gone, I'd say, above and beyond what has been required of us in terms of water conservation and have been an advocate for methods. We're currently in discussions with Fort Collins Loveland Water right now about ways that we can help. We've worked with staff on our next phase preliminary plat and our subsequent final plat approval or submittal that will be going forward. We've reduced significant areas that were previously slated for sod to make them native seed, other more water conservation methods. So I personally don't understand, I guess, the connection here between our site and some of the issues that Fort Collins Loveland has been doing. We have been working with them hand in hand to better the situation and be a good partner to them. And Chris Pletcher, the district manager, would, I'm sure, happily vouch for that if any of you want to speak with him.
Okay, Nick, let me staff comments on this particular issue before we bring it up front here with the committee's questions. Justin.
Yeah, Public Works Director. So we coordinate with the water district. As you know, the town does not provide those facilities. We rely on the water district. We do meet with them monthly. We do coordinate. And as Nick had mentioned, one of the big things that was constructed was the 24-inch water line. And then there's another future project to take that from where they left off up to the water tower. Also about the sod and just the timing of different things. So we have district talk about those things moving forward to make sure we coordinate on those. And I think we are in a better position now based on the conversation. So
I remember the sod issue from either council meeting or in the water line, water, I'm very much where I presume the reason it hasn't been extended yet is because of the development that's going to go in north of Busgrove. At some point, they're responsible. Is that it would be done at the same time? I don't know that that's pertinent necessarily, but I am aware that they did put that in early and proactively. I have other comments on this. I did attend. There was the town hosted, but sponsored by another entity, representatives of all three water districts some months ago, and they all indicated, and Director of Public Works Stone is correct in that the town does not control nor distribute any water, certainly, and they all indicated the future looked, knock on wood, at this point looked pretty satisfactory in every regard for delivery to Harmon. Correct in that regard?
yeah, that's correct. And they're the ones that make the determination, but we did have a good conversation with them, and it's our understanding too. And we do have experience, myself and the new town engineer has a lot of experience in utility, so it's something that we also have experience on, just to verify that.
Okay, and this is vetted by the district as part of the various agencies that have a say in these things, correct?
Correct. The water district is a referral So they did review the original sketch plan that entitled that amount of density, and so it is just shifting.
Okay, we're aware of that. Okay, I imagine that that'll be a further question, but at this point, Nick, stay up there, may bring other staff up as necessary. I'm going to bring it up here to the commissioners. Commissioners' questions. Renzo?
You know, do our public parks get non-potable water? And if so, will their open space use non-potable water for the watering of those features?
There is not a non-potable option at Timnath Lakes. The lakes that we have are strictly for dewatering per our decree. So there's no use that water for non-potable. So we have a system. I alluded just now to some of the discussions I'm currently having with Fort Collins Loveland, and an idea that I've proposed is to actually have a separate tap for all native acreage within the community. And the idea would be, rather than paying a tap that is permanent and can be used at any time by the homeowners, we know that certain HOAs, whether it's native or sod, they're gonna water it. And even though it's native and it's supposed to be, you know, a plan for conservation, it gets treated like it's bluegrass. So the idea that I have, and I've you know, I'm in conversation with Fort Collins Loveland, is you have a separate tap that's only for native, and once that native grass has established, that tap gets turned off, used anymore. And it's a way to ensure that over time, native is being treated like native, and it's not being watered and it's not being mowed, and I think that would have a really meaningful impact on some water issues that Fort Collins Loveland has been dealing with.
So just for you, from a utility standpoint, are you guys looking at adding the ability to use non-potable water
So
in a
some
lot
of
of these open spaces?
Yeah, so for the parks, like the Wild Wing Park, we do have a non-pot system. We are going to do an analysis, kind of look at our portfolio and do some planning. Actually, that's one of our plans we want to look at, working with the parks. But again, I don't know if they're dedicated to any park, so it may be two different things. You may also have the metro districts and their parks, but as far as the look at that to see where we're going to be in the future. So.
Okay, thank you.
Wendy?
Logan, did the Water District review the sketch plan? Do you have any recollection of that?
This amendment or the original?
The original one.
That would have been at the time of, I believe this was mid-2015 when this was approved, so end of 2014 up to 2015.
10 years ago, okay. And then, Nick, so who would monitor this tap gets turned off?
Yeah, no, great question. So, in this, to be candid, I mean, there's still early discussions. I don't know if, I mean, the district obviously has to agree and all that. So just that's kind of my caveat here. But in effect, we would pay like an annual rate, like a fee, like effectively lease the water rather than paying for the full tap. So every year we would have, we'd basically probably start with like an agreement that sets forth, you know, the fact that we're leasing the water and here's what you can do with it, what you can't. And then every year that would have to be renewed. So if we don't renew it, then the tap, then the district will have the ability to go and turn it off and close it. So there'd be a mechanism. I've done this in other municipalities as well, and it's kind of what I'm using to model off of. There's mechanisms to ensure that it gets turned off, and we are told Chad this. We're happy to, you know, stay in communication with staff about these proposals and the discussions I'm having with Fort Collins Loveland. Ensure that, you know, anything that we do meets town requirements and code and
Yeah, water conservation is a big concern slash.
yeah.
So I just want to, it's really concerning that somebody's watching it. You know, we all drive by and see sprinklers watering streets, which drives me crazy, but Okay, thank you.
No, it's a very poignant concern for sure.
Marty?
So I just wanted to be clear on this one. It wasn't in the packet, but some of this brought some clarity to it. So this section here, this phase, there's a increase in density, right? But that's being shifted to, you said the northwest. Is that like PA 12, 13, 14, or where specifically that shifted? And I presume then that's going to be less dense.
Yeah, great question. So the existing, what is being amended now is PA 17 or 7 all the way to PA 15. So these here are what are being amended. Each one of those areas had a specific density allotted to it, and this amendment is increasing what they had for those specific areas. However, they were under on PA 1 through 6.
Okay.
And so that number then is shifting, still meeting the 1,210 that was approved, just shifting it to this phase of the development. And the intent would be what is PA 13 in the original document is now and essentially would be where some of that increased density would occur.
Okay. All right, so it's just a shift and they're coming in below the original 1210.
Yeah, this put them at that 1210, meeting that.
They said it was
As
below
a
that.
maximum number.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it very well could come in the maximum, but the bottom line is that the overall project lot count is not changing. It's just simply that, like Chad said, in phase 1 and 2, those areas ended up not being, not reaching their kind of maximums. And in turn, that leaves additional units to be built. I don't even necessarily look at it as shifting. I just look at it as you have a certain amount, that you can build. That's how much how much we have left overall on this.
Okay. And then just a comment on the packet. I saw the sign-up sheet for the neighborhood meeting and, a high-level of it, but it would have been, I don't know if we captured this. I think I've seen it in others, but it would have been nice to see the actual, more detail on the public comment rather than a summary.
Understood. Yeah, and so that meeting actually occurred more in like a open format. And so it was a little more difficult, I feel, to probably capture exact questions, but I certainly, moving forward, looking within those documents, requesting that a little bit more detail.
I'm sorry, Ms. Nelson, public comments closed, but I would encourage you to see staff after the meeting and certainly schedule a time or speak with them after that if you. Thank you. Yes, thank you. Staff, you have other questions? Okay, a couple things. I'm probably the only one associated with the town that was here in 2015. But I do recall at the time, things were somewhat in a state of flux right from the get-go, both with the lakes. I admit not continuing the lake here in this new section and instead utilizing to the parkway doesn't have quite the same cachet to an otherwise, and I will digress and say I've ridden through your development and I'm pleased with how the lakes have turned out.
Thank you.
I look forward to this to come. Doesn't have quite the cachet, but I seem to remember there was some, it may not be exactly the way it was proposed at that time on a very, very high level sketch plan, bubble diagram basis, correct?
Yeah, and that's kind of shifted their approval and requirements for the plan. So as you saw in their initial, it pretty much defined what that, if it doesn't come in that way, then it requires some amendments. So it could offer up some visualization that that is what is going to occur within that development. So this is more of a conceptual document, just general locations for connectivity, ensuring what that density will be within, and that there is some thought to the amount of open space and where it's located, rather than showing it as a full plan set.
John, back then, right?
Yeah,
I remember.
exactly.
You've certainly-
Chad, if you wouldn't mind going back to the original, just for historical posterity, we had a pretty good understanding of what we wanted to do, sort of, south of the Greeley ditch there. Why, in this sketch plan document, it was actually a bit of to work with staff to say, hey, we're not going to propose lotting for the entire community, because we're stepping out on a limb to give you this much information. So we didn't have a preliminary plat. We didn't have, I'm amazed that it turned out as close as it did to what we did in the original sketch plan, because you are at an early stage of development. And so you can see, even in that whole north area, we only had bubbles and sort of general road alignments. That's was always important was, where are we coming out of the community and into the community? The internal road network would always work itself out. And again, I think that's why in our heads we're like, the only thing that has functionally changed here is that what could have been developed, that MU3 could have been developed as a higher density residential area within Old Town, actually now the lake and the pocket park. So to us, it was a relatively, we didn't know 10 years ago what that north area was going to look like.
Yes, I also, as far as the shifting, if you will, we've seen that before. To me, this is a fairly innocuous circumstance. As long as we're staying within the original number of units, that's what's really important. And certainly, and we've heard this on a number of occasions, but certainly somebody, I'm sorry, Ms. Nelson's not in here now, but this was something that 10 years ago, someone could have come into the town and certainly would have known there was going to be, give or take, 1,210 homes to the west of where this lady lives. So I'm not troubled by that. Staff, any of the you mentioned minor changes, any non-substantive issues, anything that you anticipate problems with going forward?
Not with this document.
Okay. While we have you, what do you anticipate for any further changes, any further amendments here in the next few years, particularly with the mixed-use areas?
Oh, boy. I'd be much richer than I am if I answer to that. No, I don't think we do. I mean, we look at as hopefully kind of the final piece of the puzzle in terms of Timnath Lakes, and you'll be seeing here in the coming months our preliminary plat application coming through, or presentation coming through, our final plat for phase 3, final plat for phase 4. There is a PD overlay amendment, which will also be kind of going through in tandem with the preliminary plat, but that is not proposing meaningful changes, right? We're not rezoning anything. It's changing dimensional standards. It's really aligning more to the current code in a lot of ways. So beyond that, no, we don't see any major changes in that regard.
Okay.
The only other area really is the Harmony corridor, and we're continuing to market that as commercial use. We've had some conversations about what can and can't go in there with the Harmony corridor and plan and the current zoning, but at this time we have nothing really to propose different than what's currently approved in that regard.
We've had a number of questions. The property next to the on the road next to the car wash. The original presentation was 2 buildings there. Are you marketing that, or is that the owner of the car wash trying to
wash. Yeah,
to
yeah, I
market
was
that?
actually going to ask, has there been any application on that? No, okay. Yeah, I was curious about that myself, actually, if there'd been any movement there. As far as I know, they are advertising that land for sale, and that their original intention was spec buildings there, but again, I haven't been in communication with them after the sale. I don't know what their current plans are.
All right, thank you. All right, commissioners, another question?
Yeah, there's been a lot of discussion with regards to the density and size growth and all that, and when I first read through my packet, I was questioning why the size growth and going beyond. All I ask is that in the minutes, do what he gave as an explanation of what originally approved, what the change is, and what the net result is, because what I heard is that we're under what was originally proposed, and I think that's important that we
What you heard is it won't be over.
That's correct.
Okay. I'm sure it'll be reflected in the minutes. Thank you. All right, other questions? If not, okay. With that, do I have a motion on business item 6A, Timnath Landing Sketch Plan Amendment number 1?
Motion to approve item 6A, Timnath Landing Sketch Plan Amendment number 1.
Have a second? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries on a 4-0 vote. Thank you. Thank you all. Item 6B, Respite Care Site Plan. Logan.
Chad and I are going to play musical chairs tonight. So this is the respite care site plan, and the subject property is located on Lot 8, Block 2 subdivision at 4,990 Vista del Pico Drive. And you can see the location right there on the map. So in accordance with Table 2.1, development site plan review is approved by you all, and you all can approve it with conditions or deny it. It is zoned regional commercial with the PD, and that aligns with the comp plan's designation, employment regional commercial. Few facts. So the PDO was approved in October of 2021, and that was amended on June 13th. There were a few amendments, but one of them was to add care center as a permitted use within the PDO. And just a reminder, a PDO is a zoning district intended to provide flexibility and innovation in site design and architectural standards. The site area is about 2.72 acres. The building footprint is 21,000. Building height, 28 feet. It meets the PDO standard of 40. They're at about 40% for open space. They exceed the parking requirement, meet the bicycle parking requirement. And here are the elevations. And I just want to note, they did go through several iterations. The Lidera group has a committee, and so they did go through that process as well. So here are the elevations. They've been scrutinized, and they're looking really good. All in all, staff has found that this site plan meets the review criteria of the land use code, and we are recommending approval. Our typical condition to address minor modifications or unresolved comments. And with that, I'll turn it over to the applicant.
Good evening, Kathy Mathis with TB Group. Tonight with me, I've got Christy, who's back in the corner there. She's the Executive Director of Respite Care. And next to her is Charles, and he's an architect from Neenan who is doing the design on the project. So they're available for questions. So first of all, Logan already showed you where this is in the world, so I don't think we need to repeat that anymore. Next slide. What happened? Are you running the slideshow? I mean, actually doing the... There we go. Okay, and here's just another drawing similar to what Logan showed with kind of the facts out at the side. It's just more of a colored, pretty picture showing the landscape plan. I do want to point out, where the access to the property is, Vista del Pico and Luna Vista Drive. Main entrance to the buildings there on the southwest corner. Parent drop-off and pickup is also out there. And then in the back, you see in the darker green, that's some outdoor play yards for the different age groups that will be fenced in with the box elder ditch on the other side of the fence. Just wanted to point out some things about that. Next slide. Again, Logan showed the architecture, which is stone veneer, stucco, exposed timber elements, and some of that Core 10 metal paneling that everybody's been discussing here lately. Next slide. And then just here's some shots of perspectives that Neenan did of the design. This is the entrance to the building on the corner there. And then this is the back going out towards the garden and play yards. And then one more. And then this is the parent parking area, and then it shows what the playgrounds and the building can look like. So that's all I had tonight.
Kathy, that's why we like those presentations.
Nice and quick.
Thank you. Staff, anything else before we bring it up here?
I don't believe so.
Okay. Marty?
So in the packet, they talked about, there was talk about artificial turf. Is that whole play area, or what pieces of that?
Yes, it is.
Excuse me 1 second. I neglected to open public comment. Is there, it's still accepting public comment. Is there anybody want to offer public comment on this? Okay, good. I didn't err. I did, but I didn't. Okay.
Okay, so yes, that's artificial turf back there. It's all in that darker green. There is some landscape around the outer edge, but we're trying to keep a lot of the landscape not being within the artificial turf area where all the children are.
Mm-hmm. Okay, all right.
Renzo, Wendy? I certainly agree it's an attractive building. I'm not sure looking really good is an empirical description. Is that in our land use code? Yeah. It's okay. It is looking really good. It is attractive, and we certainly welcome this into Timnath. Other questions, commissioners? All right. Well, with that, I have no other comments. Item 6B, do I have a motion on respite care site plan?
Motion to approve item 6B, respite care site plan.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Moved and all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Welcome to Tim. Item 6C, In-N-Out Burger site plan. Chad, musical chairs again.
A site plan approval for the In-N-Out Burger. Applicant, obviously, Burger, represented by Daniel Poches, and the owners is Colin, let's see, my apologies. So the subject location is located at 4911 Sema Drive in the Timnath or in the Ladera subdivision, Lot 1, Block 1 of the Ladera subdivision filing number 2. As Logan mentioned, in accordance with Table 1, a site plan approval is reviewed and approved by Planning Commission, where you have the ability to approve with conditions or deny. Again, within the development review process, this is one of the final steps. Pending approval of a site plan, the applicant could then pull a building permit to begin construction on that site. Just a little background, that Lot 1, Block 1, creating this site was created in that subdivision of the second filing in May of last year. A little background, the property, similar to the last project, zoned regional commercial with PD overlay, and was designated as employment regional commercial in the comprehensive plan, both in alignment. I think Logan did a good job first discussing the site plan review criteria, which we will revisit from staff's review. So the proposed site plan is on a 1.63 acre site. It is clearly under the allowed building height for this district, coming in at 23 and a half feet under the 40-foot limit. The building itself is 3,887 square feet, and it is below the impervious coverage allowed within the PD overlay of 80%. This proposal is 68% of that site be impervious. The applicant and the proposal is over the required open space for this development, providing 31%, and is exceeding the parking requirements. Highlighted in green, they have 46 parking spaces provided standard, with 2 ADA compliant spaces and 1 EV charging station. In addition, they are well exceeding the stacking space requirement within the town's code, which is 5 per ordering station or window. And so this proposal has 32 roughly available, hopefully keeping to mitigate and keep those cars out of the parking lot and definitely out of the drive aisle and adjacent road networks. Site tree requirement, they are exceeding, providing 47 trees represented there in yellow. In the site shrub requirement, they are meeting exactly. One thing I did want to point out within this site plan is highlighted in pink on the perimeter of this site. There are some constraints due to utility connections and easements. We do have a requirement in the town code that within a 10-foot buffer of this perimeter, there are plantings provided. Due to these constraints, they have relocated and reshifted some of those tree requirements outside of that 10-yard or 10-foot buffer, but they are still providing the number of trees that would be required. Lower shrubs and plant types would be planted within those areas as permitted by the underlying utility provider. So some of the elevations is a single-story building incorporating a variety or varied flat roof and ephes exterior, and there is brick along the base of the building. In addition, there's an outdoor covered seating area and proposed along the northern portion of the building. So that would be this area here. In addition to meeting all applicable requirements of the code, the site plan is also complying with the, needs to comply with the review criteria outlined in 299. This criteria grants the Planning Commission the discretion to ensure that each of those proposed developments align with the character of the surrounding areas. So following our review, staff felt that the development site plan was in compliance with all but 3 criteria within the land use code. One of those being item A that states that the application is conforming to the PDO requirements of the code. This item is in conformance with the approved PD overlay for the Ladera subdivision. However, upon further review from staff, there are concerns that the application of some of the criteria that were either waived or reduced is not meeting the intent of what the land use code design standards are. 2 of those items that we reviewed were the permission for the EFS material within the development, and I apologize, Logan, I may need clarification on what exactly the acronym would be, but it was a material that was previously prohibited in the town. There were concerns with longevity and maintenance of that material. In other areas, there were issues due to construction to the wear and permeability of water. So there were concerns there initially. There have been improvements within that, within the construction and materiality, to where staff was able to, or at the time willing to include this within this application. However, providing it as the dominant material, primary material, 82% of the building frontage as this material, there is concern there without adding an element of a secondary material. The other one that staff was in review of that was eliminated in the PD overlay was the ability that facades shall be glazed with clear glass no less than 30% of the first story. The proposal here is at 7% glazing. So there is concern there, staff being at the prominent location that it is at, the usability of the site, reducing that below that, eliminating that and providing it 7%. There is concerns that it is not meeting the character and intent of that code section. In addition, item B states that the use shall have no more adverse impacts on health, safety, or welfare of the surrounding properties. We feel this is in alignment with that and would not have any more adverse impacts on those adjacent commercial properties. But consideration shall be given to location, type, and height of the buildings. The proposal is a 23.5-foot building height, where there is no concern that there's any conflicts with the adjacent users there, and is in line with other commercial uses in the Timnath area. However, the type and extent of landscaping, we certainly appreciate the applicant willingness to relocate some of those tree requirements in order to work around some constraints on the site. So while it's not necessarily meeting the exact intent of that article, they were willing to place those trees within the site to still provide shade and screening within the site, just at a different location. Upon review of the site plan, however, staff did view that the majority of the ground cover for the planting bed areas is proposed as a wood mulch. We do have some concerns being in northern Colorado with the prevailing winds and weather that we get here, that could be a maintenance concern and maybe even safety concern, getting into other features within the town. So that was one item that we noted that we believed could use a consideration or request to have a different material, a more sturdy material that would hold up to some of these elements that we see here in northern Colorado. And then lastly, as far as the landscaping, we do have we noticed within the design element some areas of non-functional irrigated turf as preferred by the applicant team of In-N-Out. However, as we've noted in our last and one of our other items tonight, concern with water conservation and maintenance as well. based on the limited sizing of those, there are concerns of water getting into the drive aisles and spillover from that. So there was concern and request that item also be considered as a removal from the site plan. And then lastly was the architectural style and design of the project, that it should enhance and complement the neighborhood, and make use of materials and forms that are complementary, harmonious, avoid box-like appearances, and continue elevations, the architectural character established on the street-facing elevations. Upon further review of this, I think the predominant use of that, what is shown in white here, the EFIS material with only 9% brick, would not adequately enhance or complement the adjacent properties and materials. There are other areas or other users that within the Timnath Gateway South development that utilize a accent of brick. It features such as columns and other areas that I feel would better complement this with that inclusion. Additionally, we have concerns there were concerns with this west elevation on the top here with only a 1.28% glazing, which results in a box-like appearance, which would not meet the criteria in our eyes for item H. So upon the final review of the site plan and the site plan review criteria, and one addition, I apologize, in response to the additional secondary material of brick, part of that request stemmed from a great project that came through within Loveland through In and Out, where they added some enhanced elements that staff felt provided what that enhanced element and created that cohesive character that we are looking for within the Ladera subdivision. So again, upon further review, staff recommends approval of the site plan with 5 conditions. 1, to allow us to work with the applicant to address minor comments. The second being to replace the columns and vertical elements with brick. So again, that's kind of where the comments stem from, by seeing it had been done in other locations and works well, meeting that intent. The third being to increase the amount of glazing on that west facade. As I mentioned, it was at it is at 1.28% in order to activate and create an enhanced element along a prominent access. We have requested the glazing to be enhanced where possible. 4, to swap the wood mulch for cobble mulch throughout the landscaping area. Again, I think that this would benefit being in this area of the region. And then lastly was the request and recommendation to eliminate those pockets of the non-functional irrigated sod and an attempt to be water conscious and mindful within this development. There is a House bill that would be going into effect, I believe, in 26, that it would prohibit the use of non-functional irrigated sod. So staff is in alignment with that and getting ahead of that a bit, sharing that request. With that, I will turn it over to Daniel for his presentation.
Thank you, Chad. Is this on? Good evening, Chair, Vice Chair, Commissioners, members of the audience. Thank you so much for the presentation. Very excited to be here. This project has been on our books for quite a while, and it's been exciting knowing that this is going to be our most furthest north In-N-Out burger that we have planned for quite a while in Colorado. This is what we would consider our shelf, bookend store. we have no intentions or plans in the immediate future of going any further north, which is why throughout my presentation, I hope I can express to you why our branding is so important to us, why our design is the way it is, and we weren't real quick to jump on board with some of the staff's recommendations, which, again, it's just a friendly reminder, their preferences or recommendations. Almost everything that was recommended, we do meet the PD overlay. We are within, whether it's the glazing, so much of it we can go over as I go through my slides. One thing I did want to mention is with the previous hearing that you guys just heard, I heard what you said, Chair, about going quick. That's good. So I won't go through my 20-minute presentation. I'll try to hit the highlights of it. And Chad, if you would help me going through these slides.
1 second, Daniel.
No problem.
Don't take it too literally, Daniel.
I hear you.
We get it, rather get it right than get it quickly.
Of course. Excellent. Thank you. Our proposed in-and-out location is just south of East Harmony Road near I-25, offering excellent visibility and accessibility. This site is well positioned within a growing commercial corridor and contributes to the area's continued development. There has been a focus on brick and glazing and discussions about our building's design. However, architectural character is defined by much more than just two elements. A building's identity is shaped by its form, proportions, materials, and how it integrates with its surroundings. In-and-Out's architecture reflects a distinct and recognizable aesthetic, incorporating carefully curated design elements that extend beyond just brick and glass. As we move through this presentation, I'll highlight several key architectural features, elements that in many ways are more defining and visually impactful than brick and glazing alone. These features combined create a timeless and high-quality structure, which I'll present through the next slides. Next slide, please. Located at 4911 Sima Vista Drive, this 1.63-acre site is ideal for development. The 3,887 square foot restaurant includes indoor and outdoor seating for up to 105 guests, 49 parking spaces, and a drive-through with a capacity of 32 cars, which exceeds the code requirement of only 10 cars, a 220% increase. The project meets all town requirements and even exceeds the required parking minimums and features an EV charging station, reinforcing our commitment to sustainability and accessibility. Next slide, please. This project aligns with Timnath's long-term growth goals by supporting economic development, job creation, and sustainability. The comprehensive plan envisions a well-planned, pro-business community, and our restaurant contributes by creating jobs, boosting economic activity, and enhancing the area's appeal. We align with Goal 6.2 by strengthening the tax base and creating quality jobs, while our prime location near Harmony Road and I-25 supports Goal 6.3 by ensuring accessibility and contributing to a well-planned commercial corridor. Next slide. I'm sorry, not quite yet. By diversifying employment opportunities and reinforcing economic resilience, this project supports Timnath's vision for sustainable growth. In addition to these economic benefits, we have also carefully planned the site to ensure it integrates well into the community. I'll highlight these details in the next slide. Beyond just meeting the town's development code and PD overlay, our site design has been thoughtfully planned to ensure functionality, aesthetics, accessibility, and more important to us is our branding and our name. The building is positioned parallel to the street, creating a welcoming frontage that enhances the streetscape. Our parking layout exceeds the minimum requirements and incorporates EV charging space. Additionally, our landscaping is carefully designed to provide shade, visual appeal, and a comfortable pedestrian experience, meeting all tree and coverage standards and exceeding them. The perimeter landscaping enhances the site's overall appearance and contributes to a well-integrated development. Next slide, please. You got me. Earlier, I mentioned that enhancing a building's architectural character involves more than just brick or glass. A well-designed elevation integrates a variety of elements that contribute to both aesthetics and functionality. The next slides will highlight key architectural features that are integral to our design and our brand. Many of these elements are present on all sides of our restaurant, creating a cohesive and visually engaging structure while always staying within the code or meeting the requirements that were set forth in 2022 when we first started looking. These details are not just decorative, they are intentional design choices that define our buildings and enhance their overall presence. Now I'll walk you through those features one by one. Our building incorporates multiple architectural elements that work together to create a cohesive and visually engaging design on all 4 elevations, similar to our in-and-out standard prototype that is so well known. Specifically, the heavy cornice line, decorative recessed panel archways, and architectural columns play a critical role in defining the character of the building. Each of these features adds depth and dimension, helping to break up the horizontal plane and prevent flat or monotonous appearance. The heavy cornice lines provide a strong architectural frame along the roof line. The decorative recessed panel archways create texture and interest, adding refinement to the facade. Finally, the architectural columns add both structural support and vertical articulation, ensuring a well-balanced and visually appealing design from all perspectives, aligning with in-and-out branding seen in many states. Next slide, please. Beyond the architectural details already mentioned, our design also incorporates anodized aluminum awnings, the prominent entry pavilion, and a parapet roofline, all of which contribute to the building's identity, articulation, and visual interest. Each of these elements strengthens the overall architectural presence of the building while ensuring it remains recognizable, inviting, and true to in-and-out's high-quality standards. Next slide, please. The brick wainscot is a key architectural feature, providing durability, visual appeal. Its height and placement follow our prototype design, which we use in the majority of our stores. As a northernmost in-and-out location east of Utah, this project introduces our brand to a new customer base. Maintaining our architectural identity is critical for consistency and recognition. Staff has requested extending brick along all 4 sides, similar to our Loveland location. However, in Loveland, this was a design guideline requirement, one we followed because it was mandatory, and we went into it knowing that that was a requirement that needed to be met. In Timnath, however, this is different. This request is not a code or PDO requirement, but rather a recommendation. The staff report confirms our design meets the technical standards of the Ladera PDO, yet recommends changes based on only brick and glazing and EIFS. We believe strong architectural design is defined by more than just these elements. Rather than focusing on just 1 or 2 materials, our design integrates a variety of architectural details found throughout all of our stores that enhance the overall form and function of the building. These features work together to create a cohesive, well-balanced design. This ensures that our project maintains a high-quality, well-articulated presence that aligns with both in-and-out's branding and the expectations for strong architectural character in Timnath and meeting the PDO relay and code requirements. Next slide, please. This elevation highlights many of the architectural elements we've discussed, demonstrating how they work together to create a well-balanced and visually appealing design. One standout feature is the covered structure at the pay window, which incorporates many of the same design elements as our prominent entry pavilion. This structure adds depth and character while maintaining the cohesive architectural style of the building and in-and-out prototype building. Additionally, this elevation clearly showcases other key features such as the articulated parapet roofline, decorative archways, and structural columns. These elements contribute to the overall architectural richness of the design, ensuring that every side of the building presents a thoughtful and high-quality aesthetic. The extensive landscaping along this side further enhances the site's appearance, As it matures, it will create a natural buffer that blends seamlessly with the surroundings, further reinforcing the project's integration in the area. Next slide, please. This view provides a broad perspective of the project, showcasing the welcoming drive-in entrance, extensive landscaping, and well-planned site layout. Even from this distance, the architectural elements we've discussed, such as the articulated parapet roofline, decorative archways, and structural columns, remain clearly identifiable for an In-N-Out Burger. At the core of this discussion, our goal is simple: to build a restaurant that meets all applicable requirements while maintaining the standards our customers recognize and expect. Our design achieves this through a balance of architectural character, functionality, and branding. Now I'd like to shift focus to who we are as a company and why In-N-Out is more than just a restaurant. It's a committed community partner. Next slide, please. Now that we've discussed the details of this project, I'd like to take a moment to be sure to share more about who we are as a company. In-N-Out was founded in 1948 by Harry and Esther Snyder. Over 76 years later, the company remains family-owned and is now led by Lindsay Snyder, their granddaughter, who continues the legacy of quality, service, and community. We take pride in being a truly American company that reflects values of hard work and integrity. Our focus has always been on building strong connections with every community we enter. Next slide, please. Our mission statement is more than just words. It's our guiding principle that shapes everything that we do. It's why we remain dedicated to serving the highest quality food, creating a supportive work environment, and contributing to the well-being of the communities we serve. It's a statement that is so deeply embedded in our culture, we make sure it's present on every associate's business card and paycheck. Next slide, please. At In-N-Out, quality is everything. Our burgers are made from 100% American beef, freshly ground and never frozen. Our fries are hand-cut in-store from whole potatoes, and our shakes are made with real ice cream. The same commitment to quality and attention to detail extends beyond food. It's reflected in the way we design, build, and operate our restaurants. Every In-N-Out location is carefully planned to meet high standards for customer experience, site efficiency, and long-term community impact. Next slide, please. At In-N-Out, our associates are the cornerstone of our success. We foster a team-oriented atmosphere that encourages growth, provides extensive training, and ensures every associate feels valued and supported. This commitment to our people creates a positive work environment that not only benefits our team, but also enhances the service and experience we provide to every customer. We take pride in being a best-in-class employer, offering starting pay well above the state minimum wage, currently beginning at $19.50 per hour. Our full-time associates enjoy comprehensive benefits, including paid vacations, flexible schedules, and health coverage. These perks reflect our deep commitment to investing in our team, knowing that a supported and motivated workforce leads to a better guest experience, stronger community ties. At In-N-Out, we don't just build great restaurants, we build great teams that drive our success and strengthens the communities we serve. Next slide, please. At In-N-Out, we believe in being more than just a restaurant. We strive to be a trusted and supportive community partner. Through donations, local partnerships, and active participation in community events, we are committed to making a positive impact in the areas we serve. Over the years, we have supported numerous organizations throughout northern Colorado, many of which have likely benefited Timnath directly or indirectly. Our contributions help fund programs that support children, families, and individuals in need, reinforcing our commitment to giving back. Organizations such as Ralston House, CASA of Larimer County, and Hope House Colorado are just a few examples of the impactful partnerships we've fostered to uplift and strengthen local communities. This commitment to service is a core part of who we are at In-N-Out Burger. Next slide. Thank you for your time and attention. Happy to address any questions you guys have and look forward to it well. Thank you.
Thank you, Daniel. Anybody interested in public comment on this business item? Yes? I did not get signed up. That's all right. Just come up, state your name and address, and you have up to 3 minutes.
I won't need really that long. Hi, my name is William Welch. I am the program manager for the Ladera project. My address is 1224 Twin Oak Court, Fort Collins, Colorado. I have a couple of questions. One of them is I thought I heard a comparison between the base zoning and the PD overlay and that there was interplay between them. It's my belief that the PD overlay is the zoning. Is that not correct?
Yeah, the PD overlay would supersede. However, if it's not identified within the PD overlay, it reverts to the base zoning.
Okay, all right. And then the other one was I have this on somewhat hearsay on what was done on the Loveland project, that was a requirement of the existing architectural review committee on that piece of property that was in place before they purchased the property. On the Ladera project, that with either the PD overlay or the architectural standards, that's not true. So there is a difference in the underlying requirements for the architecture that was, again, being told is in Loveland, that is not on the Ladera project.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Staff, do you like to, first of all, comment on that while it's fresh in our minds regarding the Loveland, the difference in the standards in Loveland?
Yeah, so as we've gone through this process and made this request, it has been reported to us that yes, that was a requirement in the code specified in Loveland. Again, yes, our code does not clearly identify that that is a requirement. It is a little more open-ended in meeting the intent inconsistency within the community is where staff made that recommendation for that visual interest and consistency within the community.
Okay. It was suggested, Vice Chair, that we take, could you put those conditions, whoa, get too close to the mic. Put those conditions back up on there. I think that's a good outline. The conditions you're recommending, I think that's a good